What was it? What was it that made this self-educated beanpole lawyer from the sticks into the man most people say was the greatest American president ever? But Abe Lincoln didn't get here for his good looks. The newspapers loved to make fun of this guy. He had a strange voice, but look at him. Not what you'd call easy on the eyes. He was even known as the Illinois Ape. So no, not his appearance. That was not attractive to people in the common way. And his voice is reported to have been rather reedy and high, with the western twang in it. So no, it wasn't his voice. It was what he said. Lincoln spoke basic American very well. His language referenced the original American values, like liberty, like justice, things worth fighting for, and even things worth dying for. The language they abused was plain and still poetic. Lincoln's speaking came to national attention in the Senate election of 1858. The Illinois senator incumbent, Stephen Douglas, was known as the Little Giant. He had engineered the advancement of the Missouri Compromise. With his Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, he had allowed slavery to extend westward. The question everyone was debating in 1858 was, should slavery be allowed to expand? Illinois was also the perfect place for a great debate in 1858. The state population mirrored the nation's population, with free soil, anti-slavery types in the north around Chicago, fugitive hunting slavery supporters in the south in places like Alton and Cairo, and in between, you had the people of central Illinois, who hadn't yet made up their minds about slavery and letting it expand. Of course, these people were neutral, not disinterested. Lincoln knew that when faced with an undecided or a neutral audience, a speaker needs to bring hard facts and sound reasoning to bear. He needs to talk plainly so that most people will understand. This is what Lincoln did in these debate speeches. He helps Americans see that given the premise of the American argument that all men are created equal, Americans have to conclude that slavery is wrong and that it must end if America is to go on. Logical appeal appeals to the intelligence of the audience. It's the logos appeal. And Douglas, though comically small next to Lincoln, was a strong speaker too. He offered audiences a competing argument with its own American logic. This unlikely duo were the rock stars of their day, arguing the great American question in front of the American people of what the United States of America should become. Douglas won that election in 1858, but ultimately, Lincoln's ideas won the American day. I've seen time. Another Another important part of Abe's appeal was based on his character, the sense that people got that Abe was a regular guy, one of us, a democratic president. The highly educated Easterners may have ridiculed and reviled him, but he stayed popular with the people. This common, everyday, down-to-earth aspect of Abe's character comes through in his language, in his word choice. Or in this advice to a young attorney: don't shoot too high, aim lower, and the common people will understand you. This appeal to the character of the speaker is known as ethos. Abe's simple language and keen logic were really tested in his famous Gettysburg Address of 1863. This speech had to do a lot. It had to make the case that all of the blood and guts that had spilled on this battlefield in Pennsylvania was worth it. It had to make a grieving country continue to sacrifice. How can you persuade patriotism? Feeling. All you can do is inspire it. And that's what Abe did with pathos. He acknowledges the terrible sacrifice the country has made, and he expresses his own sense of triviality next to the sacrifice of the fallen, saying,
"The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here."
Now that he has evoked a feeling of loss and maybe survivor's guilt in the audience, Abe explains in simple terms the duty of every American now.
It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion.
And what is that devotion to? And what should all Americans now turn their attention and their energy towards vindicating for these poor dead guys? Why, the same old American values that they came up with in 1776. Liberty, justice, equality. Abe Lincoln spoke it, and people listened. Not because of the way he looked, because of what he said, and who he was, and how he said it, and how it made the American people feel. This, perhaps, explains his logos, his pathos, his ethos, why he's regarded as not just a great speaker, but perhaps the greatest American president ever.